Have you ever sat quietly at the kitchen table, wondering how such a simple conversation turned into a tense moment with someone you love? Maybe it was a disagreement with your adult child, or maybe your grandchild rolled their eyes one too many times and you just didn't know how to respond without making things worse. Family conflict has a way of creeping in quietly, sometimes starting with something small, a misheard word, a forgotten call, a difference in opinion, and before you know it, there's tension where there used to be warmth. And let me tell you, if you've ever felt this way, you are absolutely not alone. After 70, many of us begin to crave more peace, more connection, and more time to enjoy the people we love. But it's also the stage when some relationships get, well, a little more complicated. Roles shift, kids grow up. You may rely more on others for help, or maybe they rely on you emotionally, financially, or even just to babysit the grandkids. Expectations change, and with change, conflict often tags along for the ride. But here's the good news. Just because conflict is part of family life doesn't mean it has to weigh you down. You can face it with grace. You can respond with wisdom, with warmth, and with quiet strength, the kind you've built over a lifetime of experience. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Because when you handle family conflict well, something beautiful happens. You create a space where love can breathe again. You model peace for the younger ones. And most of all, you protect your own sense of calm, which is something no one else can do for you. So today, we're going to talk about 6 powerful ways to navigate family tension after 70. These are not dramatic, quick-fix tactics. These are grounded, heart-centered habits that anyone, yes, anyone can learn and practice. Let's start with the first one, and it's probably the hardest, but also the most transformative. It begins with choosing to listen first, even when you completely disagree. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but I already do listen. I try to stay calm. And maybe you do. But I want to gently ask, are you truly listening to understand, or are you listening to correct? Because there's a big difference. At this stage in life, we've gathered so much wisdom. We've seen what works and what doesn't. And sometimes, when our adult children come to us with their frustrations or their choices, our instinct is to jump in and set things straight. But here's the surprising truth. Most people don't want to be fixed. They want to be heard. They want to feel that their thoughts, even the messy ones, are valid. That doesn't mean you have to agree. It just means that for a few minutes you pause your desire to teach or guide and you let them speak, fully, without interruption. You might be amazed at how much tension dissolves when someone simply feels listened to. And you might find that once you've made space for their story, they're more willing to hear yours. It's a subtle shift, but it sets the stage for mutual respect, and respect is the soil where peaceful relationships grow. Now, once you've opened the door with listening, the next thing that helps is learning to choose your moments wisely. What I mean is this. Not every disagreement needs to be solved right now. Sometimes the wisest thing you can do is wait. Let the air cool. Let emotions settle. I've seen families tear themselves apart because one person just couldn't walk away from a heated moment. But here's the truth. Not everything urgent is important. And not everything important is urgent. There's real power in saying, I hear you, and I want to talk about this, but I think I need a little time first. That's not avoidance. That's emotional maturity. It gives both people the chance to return to the conversation with clearer heads and softer hearts. And if you're thinking, but what if I never get the chance to say what I really feel? Trust that the right time will come. And when it does, you'll be speaking from a place of intention, not from frustration. That makes all the difference. You know, after 70, we have something younger generations haven't had the time to collect, yet perspective. We've lived long enough to know that many arguments that felt huge in the moment didn't matter nearly as much in the grand scheme of things. What mattered most was the relationship, the memories, the laughter, not who was right. That brings me to something I hold close. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. Just because someone raises their voice or brings up something unfair or says something that stings, it doesn't mean you have to join in. You have the freedom to respond or to simply say, "I don't want to fight with you. I care about you too much for that." Imagine how disarming that can be. Imagine the look on your grandchild's face when you refuse to take the bait and instead offer love. That's not weakness. That's strength that knows where it stands. It's okay to set a boundary. It's okay to walk away from a conversation that's going nowhere. And it's more than okay to protect your peace because you've earned it. You've earned the right to wake up each morning with joy in your heart, not knots in your stomach. Now, let's keep this going. Because what we're talking about isn't just about conflict, it's about legacy. It's about the example we set. And the next step in handling family conflict with grace builds on everything we've just talked about. It's learning how to speak the truth kindly, not just honestly, but kindly. You see, honesty without kindness can come across as criticism. And when people feel criticized, they shut down. But kindness without honesty can feel fake or avoidant. The magic is in blending both. It's in saying what's true for you, but saying it in a way that invites connection, not defensiveness. Let's take a simple example. Imagine your adult daughter forgets your birthday for the first time. You're hurt, deeply, and everything. And you wants to say, "How could you forget something so important?" But you pause, you take a breath, and you say instead, "You know, I really missed hearing from you yesterday. Birthdays are still a special day for me even now, and I just felt a little sad not to connect with you." That's not passive-aggressive. That's not guilt-tripping. That's clear, heartfelt communication. You're not attacking. You're not blaming. You're just naming your feeling and doing it with gentleness. And that makes people want to come closer, not run away. At this stage in life, we know that words carry weight. They don't disappear. They echo. They can either build bridges or burn them down. When you choose to speak with clarity and warmth, even when you're upset, you're setting the tone for healthier relationships across generations. Another piece that helps, and this one often surprises people, is to be curious, not furious. When a family member says or does something that confuses or frustrates you, instead of jumping to conclusions, try getting curious. Why might they be reacting this way? Is something else going on that I don't know about? Maybe your son snapped at you during dinner. Instead of thinking, "He's so rude," pause and wonder, is he overwhelmed with work? Is something happening with the kids? Did I maybe say something earlier that felt off to him? Being curious shifts the whole energy. It softens your heart. And when you approach a loved one with a gentle question instead of an accusation, "Hey, you seemed a little stressed earlier. Is everything okay?" You open the door to a real conversation, not just another argument. Curiosity also helps when generations don't see eye to eye. Maybe your grandchild spends too much time on their phone. Maybe your daughter parents her kids differently than you did, and instead of trying to correct them, what if you simply asked, "Tell me more about how that works for you," or "I'd love to understand your perspective." It's amazing how often conflict melts when people feel like you're interested in their world, not trying to change it. And while all of this is important, the listening, the choosing your moment, the speaking kindly and staying curious, there's one more thing that holds it all together, especially in those really tough moments. Your ability to pause and breathe before you respond. That pause, it's your superpower. When emotions run high, our bodies go into fight or flight. Even at 70 or 80, that reaction is still there. Your heart races, your shoulders tense, your jaw tightens. But the moment you take a deep breath and give yourself a few seconds before speaking, everything shifts. Your brain catches up with your heart. Your wisdom has time to step in before your temper does. And sometimes, just that one small pause can change everything. You might say something softer. You might decide not to say anything at all in that moment. You might even find yourself smiling, realizing this argument isn't worth the stress. Pausing doesn't mean suppressing your emotions. It means honoring them and then choosing how you want to carry them. Do you want to throw them like a hot potato, or hold them like something sacred and respond in a way that feels true to who you really are? Because who you are at your core is someone who values peace, love, and legacy. You didn't come this far in life just to live in conflict. You've earned the right to enjoy your family, not walk on eggshells around them. And when you start showing up with this calm, centered energy, something remarkable happens. People around you begin to soften, too. You become the anchor in the storm. You become the safe place they can return to. Not because you always agree, but because they know you'll meet them with grace. And that right there is the kind of influence that lasts. Let's keep going, because what comes next might just be the heart of it all. It's learning to forgive, not just for their sake, but for yours. Forgiveness isn't always easy, especially when the wound runs deep or the hurt lingers longer than you expected. Maybe it was something your child said 10 years ago and never apologized for. Maybe it was the way a family member excluded you from a decision, or how a once close relationship slowly faded without explanation. Those things can weigh heavy. They don't just sit in your memory. They sit in your chest, in your sleep, in your smile. But here's what I've learned. Forgiveness isn't saying what happened was okay. It's saying, I won't carry this pain around anymore. Because the truth is, holding on to resentment doesn't punish them. It punishes you. It steals your peace. It keeps you stuck in moments you deserve to be free from. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. And it doesn't have to be grand or dramatic. It can be quiet. It can be you sitting alone in the early morning whispering, I release this. I let go. You don't even need them to apologize first. You don't need them to understand. You just need to decide that your peace means more than holding on to the past. And here's the beauty of it: when you forgive, something in you opens up again. It might be space for a conversation, it might be space for laughter, it might even be space for a relationship that begins to heal. But even if it doesn't, you will feel lighter. You'll stand a little taller. You'll breathe a little deeper. And that freedom? That's worth everything. Sometimes, forgiveness means choosing, not to bring up that same old argument again. It means stopping yourself before saying, you always, or you never. It means choosing to see the good that's still there, not the flaws that disappoint you. Because at the end of the day, none of us are perfect. We've all said things we regret. We've all been the cause of someone else's pain, whether we meant to or not. But you have the power to break that cycle, to be the one who brings healing into the family, not more wounds. That's grace. That's leadership. And that's love in its highest form. Now, before we wrap up, I want to talk about one more thing that might be the most important of all. It's remembering that you are still growing, still learning, still evolving. Just because you've crossed 70 or 75 or even 85 doesn't mean your story is done. In fact, I believe this chapter, this one right here, might be one of the most meaningful of your life. Because now you get to live with more intention. You get to choose peace over pride. You get to pour love into your family in a way that leaves a legacy long after you're gone. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to carry everyone. You just have to show up with kindness, with honesty, with wisdom, and with that quiet grace that comes from living a full, rich life. So the next time conflict knocks on your door, I want you to remember this. You are not powerless. You are not stuck. You are not too old to make a change. In fact, you are the steady heart of your family. And when you choose calm, others will feel it. When you choose compassion, others will receive it. When you choose to handle things with grace, you light the way for everyone around you. And if no one has told you this lately, let me be the one to say it. You are doing better than you think. You are not alone in the hard days. And even if some conversations still feel unfinished, or some relationships still feel broken. There is always hope, always room for something new, always time for healing. I want to thank you truly for taking this time to care about yourself, your peace, and your family. It's not always easy, but it is always worth it. And now, before we go, I'd love to hear from you. Has there been a moment in your life where choosing grace over conflict made a difference? Or maybe you're walking through a hard season right now and just need a space to share. Whatever it is, drop it in the comments. This is a place for real stories, real healing, and real connection. If you found even a little peace in today's message, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs it. You never know whose heart it might touch. Until next time, breathe deeply, love gently, and remember, you are the calm in the storm, the light in the room, and the wisdom your family needs now more than ever. Here's to living with grace. 1. Conversation at a time. There's something I want you to really let sink in today. Peace isn't the absence of problems. Peace is something you carry in your heart, in your breath, in the way you choose to respond when life gets messy. And family, as we both know, is often messy. Full of love, yes, but also full of personalities, expectations, and past hurts that sometimes rise up when you least expect them. But one of the most beautiful gifts of growing older is this. You start to realize that not everything needs to be solved to be sacred. You don't need every conversation to end in perfect agreement. You don't need to win every argument. You just need to be true to yourself and kind to others at the same time. And that brings us to the final tip I want to share with you. Focus on what truly matters. It might sound simple, even obvious, but sometimes we lose sight of this in the heat of the moment. We argue over things that won't matter a year from now. We stew over tone, timing, who texted who first, and forget to ask ourselves the real question. Is this moment helping or harming the love I'm trying to protect? I remember talking with a friend. She was in her early 80s, and she said something that has stayed with me ever since. She said, "At this age, I've started to look at every family disagreement through the lens of memory. One day, this might be the last time I sit across the table from this person. So I ask myself, how do I want them to remember me? Isn't that powerful? Not out of fear, not to tiptoe around others, but because legacy matters, and peace matters. And love, even in its imperfect forms, is still worth fighting gently for. So when your daughter forgets to call, or your grandson seems distant, or your nephew brings up politics again at Thanksgiving, ask yourself, what really matters here? Is it being right? Or is it being kind? Is it teaching a lesson? Or is it showing up with patience, knowing that some lessons take time to grow? There's wisdom in stepping back and seeing the bigger picture. Maybe your role isn't to change. Your family, maybe it's to anchor them, to be the steady hand when things feel shaky, the soft voice when others are shouting, the reminder that family at its best isn't built on agreement. It's built on love, forgiveness, and showing up anyway. I want to tell you something else that might bring you comfort. Even if you've made mistakes in the past, and we all have, there's still time to make things right. There's still time to pick up the phone, to write the letter, to soften your heart and say, I miss you. Sometimes that's all it takes, just one brave moment of honesty to open a new chapter. And if they don't respond right away, that's okay. What matters is that you tried. What matters is that you stayed true to who you want to be. Because grace isn't about getting the perfect outcome. It's about choosing the kindest possible path for you and for them. Maybe today is the day you stop waiting for someone else to make the first move. Maybe you go first, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. That's the kind of wisdom only life experience can teach. And you, my friend, have earned every ounce of it. So let me ask you gently, is there someone in your life right now you've been holding at arm's length? Someone where a small gesture could begin to heal something broken? Maybe it's a child, a sibling, a friend who used to feel like family. If someone came to mind, don't ignore it. Reach out, even if it's just to say, "I'm thinking about you." That's where healing starts, with a tiny crack of light. And even if nothing changes, you will change. You'll feel freer, lighter, more at ease with yourself, because you chose love over resentment. And that's what it means to handle conflict with grace. Let's not let pride be louder than love. Let's not let silence stretch longer than it needs to. And let's not waste precious time that could be filled with laughter, with stories, with memories that make life sweet. If you're still here watching, that tells me something important about you. It tells me that you care, that you're willing to do the work, that you want your family, your peace, your joy to flourish, not fade. And I want you to know how deeply I admire that. You are a light in your family. You are a safe place for someone who might not know how to say, "I'm sorry" yet. You are the calm in a world that often forgets how to pause and just listen. So, here's to you, to your wisdom, to your heart, and to every quiet choice you make that brings more love into the world. If this message touched something in you today, I'd love it if you shared it with someone who might need to hear it. Maybe a sibling, maybe your child, maybe even a friend who's going through a tough season with their family. And don't forget to leave a comment, share your story, your thoughts, or just a word of encouragement for someone else watching. You never know who needs your voice today. And of course, if you found value here, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. We're building a space where every season of life, especially the golden ones, is honored, supported, and celebrated. You're not alone. You're not too old to start again. And you're never too late to become the peacemaker your family remembers forever. Take a deep breath, hold your head high, and keep leading with grace. You've got this.